Hello. How you doing? Greetings and salutations. Hi, this is a full review on the new 16 to 80mm f4 Fujifilm lens. Why do I sound like a used car salesman or something? Have to be honest with you, and this has happened a couple times on Fujifilm lenses in the past where I thought, like for example the 16-1.4, which is my favorite Fujifilm lens of all time, well, either that or the 80mm macro. I thought, oh, you know, yeah, whatever, okay, fine, and I was incredibly shocked. I also thought that about the 45mm 2.8 before it came out. I own every X series lens and every GX lens for the medium format series of Fujifilm cameras, and that lens is absolutely unbelievable, incredibly perfect. I thought the exact same thing, except maybe far worse, on the 16 to 80 before it came out. And of course I know, and I'm getting to that, comparing it to the 18 to 55, which is the staple kit lens from the X-T2 and several other cameras, and also too the 16 to 55 2.8. I said I have all the X series lenses, and I'll do that comparison and contrast here in just a second. And by the way, my book on Fujifilm is completely free. It's downloadable. It's in version 2.1, and the link below. And of course I rate every lens, and including, you know, all the primes and all the zooms. And one thing that's just about impossible is to find an absolutely incredible, you know, zoom lens. Nikon actually has one, but it's not a perfect zoom lens because it's a 28 to 300. I mean, it's an ultra zoom, which seems contradictory. There's actually a couple of Nikon Pro shooters that use that lens, and it defies all possibilities of optical construction that an ultra zoom lens could be really, really amazing. And I use it analogously. And I've not given the two best reviews, and I'm reaching a point here about this lens, since this review is about this lens, that I've rated extremely high, and that's the 50 to 140, but I don't give it a perfect 10 out of 10 on that lens, 9 on the value, and 9 on the overall. And my actual highest rating is off of a recent lens, and I'm a huge fan of ultra-wide lenses, and specifically ultra-high quality ultra-wide zoom lenses, and the new 8 to 16mm is a 10 out of 10 on overall, and a 9 on value. So there's certainly no Fujifilm zoom lens that I would call a perfect lens, because really that's just not the case. However, this is the exception, and I was not expecting this at all. Like I said, I have no affiliate links. Whatever you buy or don't buy, I don't make a dime, so I give accurate reviews on lenses, and I actually take a lot of pride in the fact when I do a full review on a lens, I like people to be happy, is that I never have to think back after making a video like this or any other lens reviews, like, oh, I wished I said this instead of this. And I'll certainly not look back on making bold statements on this particular lens. I posted up several image samples. There's certainly nothing exciting, but I've had this lens now for about almost 3 weeks, and I don't know why I'm appearing in that video. I think I know why. I was linking to this. The bokeh on this lens is absolutely incredible. This is a dull, boring bokeh shot. It's actually extremely reminiscent of like Otto Rekinen 55-1.4. Some of the best lenses for adapting. They're old lenses, they're old manual focus lenses. Like here's one with just incredible bokeh. It's not radioactive. A lot of those old lenses, like the Otto Rekinen, are radioactive. This lens actually has incredible bokeh, and for a zoom lens, that's really unheard of. Even better than that of the 16 to 55 2.8. Surely not. I mean, that's a lens for portraiture. That lens, by the way, does not have OIS. It's fairly expensive, but not really. And it's large and it's heavy, but for a 2.8 16 to 55, it's really not. It's a 24 to 70 equivalent, and this, by the way, of course, is a 24 to 120 field of view equivalent f4. By the way, Nikon's 24 to 120mm. That lens is absolutely disgustingly abysmal, and I posted up a lot of image samples. Color saturations is 16 elements and 15.5 ounces, 72mm front filter. The lens is $800 retail US. On this is a 16mm image sample from this lens. I can't remember when I shot it. Absolutely unnoticeable vignetting at 16, also 2 at 80. Corner sharpness is extremely good on this lens. And I'm going to compare this to the 18 to 55 and the 16 to 55 2.8 here in just a second. But let me make some statements about this lens. Because when I make really emphatic statements about a lens, I have to be 100% confident. I don't just like say this stuff off the top of my head. And I've had this lens for quite some time. So when I make really bold statements, people will crucify me if I make an incorrect statement about a lens, because someone will buy it and they could be disappointed. And that doesn't happen to me. And I'm not exaggerating on that fact. It just doesn't. This lens is incredibly sharp. The autofocus is absolutely mind-numbingly fast, way faster than the 18 to 55 is, the old kit lens. And there's nothing wrong with that lens. Also very silent. The lens is crazy sharp all throughout the range. I said no perceptible vignetting at 16 or throughout to 80. The bokeh is absolutely unheard of awesome. At 80 millimeters too, you can get extremely close. It's essentially 1 foot, and at 80 millimeters, zoomed out with this lens at 1 feet, you could use this as basically a pseudo macro, or basically like a poor man's macro, if you will. I mean, you get really damn close is the ultimate point on this. Then I'll talk about what this lens is and who it's designed for, because I actually give a lot of consideration to that. I mean, look at this bokeh. This is nearly as close as I could get. This is a hair over a foot. This is nothing exciting. And look at the bokeh on the back. This is very puffy cotton candy, a circular orbital bokeh on the background on this. Extremely reminiscent of some of my favorite adapted old lenses that are low element count lenses. Actually, Fujifilm designed this lens right in absolutely every way. The closest semblance to this is that recent Tamron 35 to 1.4, which is also absolutely incredible. This is a boring cat shot. This is the kitty being bored. No, this is not my cat. I'm allergic to cats. I could actually see myself reflected in the cat's eye. I know you can't see it here in the video. I could actually see myself stoop down with the LCD pivoted out. Incredibly frigging sharp lens. Incredibly frigging sharp. Unbelievable. This lens has characteristics, and I mean this succinctly as someone that's had a lot of time with this lens, owns every Fujifilm X series lens. This lens defies everything that I thought that it would be. I literally, and I've said this a couple times, like the 45mm 2.8 GF lens, yeah, whatever, and it's just, oh my God, what a shocker. That lens is just unbelievable. Top 10 lenses of any that I've ever used. The other one is the 16mm 1.4, and I'm a huge macro lens nut, hardcore macro lens nut in the 80mm 2.8 Fujifilm. But I'm going to actually interject something here very important and get to the damn point. But I have to say that this is, by my own review that I went over, I literally went over all the reviews of every X series and GF series lens, and this is Fujifilm's only lens that I will rate a 10 out of 10 straight across the board, and I've not done that with any other Fujifilm zoom lens. Not done that. The second best would be the 8 to 16mm, and the one after that would be the 50 to 140. But even that doesn't score a top on either mark, just very high. This is also, too, not just Fujifilm, but across the board, one of only 3 to 4 zoom lenses that I would consider to be as perfect. And when you say an as perfect zoom lens, that sounds contradictory. That's like saying beautiful ugly girl or something, because zoom lenses are just not. I mean, that's what the hell you buy a damn awesome prime lens for. But I can actually say without reservation, without any future regret, no matter how much any of you will hold my feet to the fire on making this bold statement, I can actually say this is one of only 3 to 4, depending on how I rank them, perfect zoom lenses. That's by everybody. Nikon, Fujifilm, on and on and on. Literally, perfect zoom lens. I mean that very, very seriously. It's a 10 out of 10 across the board. The bokeh is incredible. It's just crazy as sharp. The autofocus is blasting fast. Now I'm going to do a comparison between the 18 to 55. I mean, it's got faster autofocus, the 18 to 55. It's much more silent. It's definitely got better bokeh. Better focal range, the 16 to 80 f4, than the 18 to 55 2.8 lens. And that's a perfectly fine lens and is a little bit smaller. Let me actually take the hood off of this lens. You can see the size. I didn't bring out the 18 to 55. It's not that much bigger than the 18 to 55. Which is a variable aperture. Compared to the 16-55 2.8, obviously this is a good deal cheaper, faster autofocus, more silent. Even though that's a 2.8 and this is an f4, I actually subjectively prefer the bokeh on this better. I absolutely prefer the bokeh on this lens better. It has really puffy cotton candy circular. It just reminds me of the radioactive auto Rekinens. And my favorite adapted lens of all time, the Porsche 55mm 1.4. So even though it's a 2.8, and that actually does happen where a lens that is not as fast of an aperture will have actually superior bokeh to another lens. And it has a better focal range, and of course it has a better focal range than either the 18 to 55 or the 16 to 55 2.8. Where does this lens sit between the two? This lens is, you know, the whole Goldilocks thing, not too hot, not too cold. This is Fujifilm's development of the Goldilocks lens that sits price-wise and size-wise between the 16 to 55 2.8 and the 18 to 55 lens. However, in almost every category is superior to both of those lenses. I mean that emphatically. The autofocus is better. The 1655 2.8 is plenty sharp, and it's sharper especially in the corners as opposed to that of the 18 to 55, but this is sharper than both of those, including specifically to mention in the corners as opposed to that of the 1655 2.8. Better bokeh than both. Now that's a subjective statement, but everybody that I've actually shown the bokeh to on this lens is actually quite shocked. It is extremely, and that's not as close as I can get, incredibly beautiful bokeh. Who's this lens for? Given the full spectrum of all current Fujifilm X series lenses, this is the single do-it-all lens for both travel, portraiture, short-range action. This lens has both, and this is completely effing unheard of for zoom lenses. Has both the speed, autofocus speed, and the bokeh to make it ideal for countless things. I'm going to take one lens for travel. Now, I know you want me to compare it also to the 18 to 135. This really is my favorite travel lens, and of course this doesn't have the same range, and nor is it as fast of a lens as opposed to the 16 to 80. However, the bokeh is not as good. The autofocus is not as good, but I mean, this is a better single do-it-all travel lens, really, than the 16 to 80. But which would I actually take? I'm actually going to sell off one of my 18 to 55 lenses and actually purchase the 16 to 80. This is a borrow, and I need to return it here in a week or so or something like that. But I am going to get it because, like I said, this is one of only 3 or 4 perfect zoom lenses. And the only one, in my subjective logical analysis, having owning all the X series lenses, the only perfect zoom lens from Fujifilm in the X series, that is. Actually, even in the GFX series, the GF series of medium format lenses, there's no perfect zoom lens there either. The closest is the 100 to 200, at least in my humble opinion, or the 32-64. Still doesn't match it. It doesn't have the bokeh. It's a wonderful lens that everybody owns, but I digress on the medium format lenses. So this lens has both the speed and the bokeh to make it ideal for countless things. Like if you wanted one lens you're going to take, I don't know, family pictures with, you wanted a beautiful portraiture, and you had perfect intermediate range, blasting fast autofocus, just sharp as a razor, you know, and you owned every X series lens, you know, or to go backpacking in Europe or something, God forbid I have the money to do that, which I certainly don't, but if I was, and just bring my XT3 or an XT30, and one of only 3 lenses, one of them would be probably the I don't know. Definitely the 80mm macro because I'm a big macro nut, but that's just me. Definitely the 55 to 200, but as primary, almost like glue it on the camera and forget about it and be happy, is this, the 16 to 80. Give it a 10 out of 10 across the board. I was not expecting that out of this lens at all. Was not expecting that. I thought, oh Jesus Christ, okay, 16 to 80. What the hell do we need this for? Why? We got the 18 to 55. We got the 16 to 55 2.8. All of this is going through my head when this lens was announced, and that's the truth. That's exactly what the frig I was thinking. And I said I'd give honest, objective reviews on these lenses, and I do mean that. I don't make bold, because if I make a really bold statement about a lens and it is not accurate and it's not palpably, demonstrable, like you bought this lens because I recommended it, and you went out shooting, well, this isn't what he said it is at all. I never want to do that, and I take lens reviews really seriously. Even if you hate me, trust me, I take lens reviews really seriously before making really bold statements and calling it a perfect zoom lens, which is unheard of. Like I said, that's like saying beautiful ugly girl. You just like perfect zoom lens. What the hell are you talking about? Are you drunk? I don't even drink alcohol. And no, I mean that. Words I never say. 6,000 plus videos. You can find one other video, or probably years ago, where I used the words perfect zoom lens. And this is that. This is the perfect zoom lens. It says $800. It's going to be out for purchase tomorrow. And yeah, the kitty was bored there. I was doing a lot of portraiture. Look at that bokeh on this lens. It's just incredible. Just blasting ass sharp. The autofocus on this too. Just not only is it silent, it's faster than the 16-55. It's faster than the 18-55. Well, no duh. That lens has been around for quite a while. Not that there's anything wrong with the 18 to 55, because you can get them used pretty darn cheap. Yeah, there's a lot of used 18 to 55 variable aperture kit lens, Fujifilm lenses out there on eBay and other places. This lens really actually shocked me in a good way. And I love to rant. I love when I test a lens and I think it's horrible. I love to rant. I love to spit blood, if you will. I actually love ranting about how horrible a lens is. I've got lots of videos to attest to that. There's even a few Fujifilm lenses. Well, I don't know. Well, what's the one I can't stand the most? Oh, the 18mm. Yeah, I've spit blood on that lens a little bit. Not a fan of it. This lens is incredible. I was never expecting that out of this lens. So anyway, I hope you like this video. I've had this lens for 2.5 weeks. I've been out with it like a half a dozen times. And yeah, this is a perfect zoom lens, and the only one. Like I said, my book is a free download in the link below. And yeah, I also own the 200mm f2, that big honker right there, mounted on my XT30. That's pretty cute, isn't it? And yeah, Fujifilm doesn't have another zoom lens, because I'm not contradicting myself. This book has already been out now for several months. Version 2 of my free book on Fujifilm. I hope you download it. Like I said, it's completely free. There we go. Fujifilm camera, helpful tricks and tips. Don't make much money off of a free book. This lens is incredible. Fujifilm nailed it out of the park, and they've done something that I can only say about 3 other, possibly 4, 3 other zoom lenses. Perfect zoom lens. Absolutely bleeping unheard of. And I mean that with all seriousness and earnestness, okay? Yep. Absolutely, 100% undeniably so. Thank you so much for watching. If you like these videos, you click the link below. Anything helps. Tell me to jump off a cliff, whatever makes you happy. But I don't sell anything, and I don't have any affiliate links, so whatever you buy, I don't make a dime. I enjoy it when people are happy and they buy things based upon logical, intelligent reviews by people that know what the hell's going on. Because there's other people who do lens reviews, is like, people, I'll never forget the guy who says, I said something about a lens, and I forget, it was an old Nikon lens. Oh, that lens sucks. He said, well, that's your opinion. It's like, you're right, but some opinions are worth a lot more than others. It's like, how many lenses have you tried? I'm on lens number 5,000 right now, probably somewhere around there. So thank you, and wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Yeah, Fujifilm. I wish I didn't have to return this lens, but I am buying it. I'll just have to sell something to buy it. I'm still waiting on my GFX 100. I'll get that sometime here in the next week and a half or so. There we go. Fuji.